Kia ora koutou katoa. I grew up on, in and under the Hauraki Gulf. Came with being a fourth generation Aucklander and a pre-bridge North Shore dweller. The sea was our playground, and from an early age I began to acquire the skills to enjoy it. Swimming, diving, paddling, rowing, sailing. We mucked about in boats, indeed with anything that could float. I also grew up with assumptions about the sea, some of which have changed over my lifetime. Chiefly that it was always there, always available, always the same, and always would be. However, as those of us who spent a lifetime by the sea know, the quality and clarity of the water, the marine life, even the sand, has changed significantly at many, if not most, of our beaches. Nowadays I notice when drainage pipes run into the sea and warning signs are put up after a heavy rain. I notice the decline in the critter and shell life population of the rock pools. Some beaches, regardless of signage, I hesitate to swim in. The idea that the sea would miraculously process our runoff, pollutants, even sewage, and remain pristine seems now at best naive. Like with a large old pohutakawa tree holding a cliff intact. We need to care for our ocean and not presume it will always be and do as we've imagined it always being and doing. Of course, one way of caring for the sea is to care for the trees along the shore. Without trees, more sediment flows into our harbours, and with more sediment comes more diminution of marine life. The Gospel reading today is that of the Good Samaritan, a parable familiar to most of us. I want you to stretch your mind in imagining the beaten man in the ditch, whom the parable never names. Maybe he, she is emblematic of all who suffer. I want you to stretch your mind to imagine the beaten one not as a human, but as the ocean. Imagine that it is the ocean that is suffering. It is the ocean that has been set upon by robbers. It is the ocean that has been left dying, robbed, beaten, and left half dead, as Luke says. And it is the ocean that the respected leaders of society, including religious leaders, then and now, have largely ignored and walked on by. In the text prior to the telling of the parable, there is a lawyer who, seeking to justify himself, which infers a strategy of avoidance, approaches Jesus and asks, "Who is my neighbor?" Is the ocean my neighbor? Jesus answers that question in two ways. Firstly, the neighbor is the one in need of help, compassion, of mercy. So yes, the ocean is our neighbor. It is in need of help. And secondly, the one who loves their neighbor. And remember, the lawyer is asking for clarification of the scripture in the Torah about loving one's neighbor. The one who loves their neighbor is the one who stops, helps, keeps on helping, and paying for it out of their own pocket, until the injured one, the injured neighbor, is restored to health. Not a one-stop quick fix. And the one who loves their neighbor in this parable is the Samaritan. The one who loves their neighbour is not like us, the audience, nor like those important people who walk on by. He's different. He's racially, religiously other. And yet he is the one who obeyed, who is the exemplar of the command to love your neighbour, the one who shows ongoing compassion and mercy by means of practical aid. He is the true neighbour to the neighbour in distress. In terms of showing mercy to the half-dead ocean, the Samaritan today could be many. It could be a child picking up plastic on a beach, or confronting their friends or families about buying plastic bottles. It could be a small group of people who come together and call themselves Heal the Hauraki, as in the Hauraki Gulf, and then get to work. It could be a local politician lobbying to prioritize drainage systems that don't damage the ocean. It could be a fisherman, a scientist, a diver. It could be a person of religion or no religion. To show mercy, you don't have to have any qualifications. Just eyes to see, a heart to feel, and hands to help. I strongly recommend that you go to www.healthehauraki.com and watch the short video they've created. Hauraki spelled Hauraki. You'll notice in the korero, the talk with the video, two things that touch upon spirituality. Firstly, the ocean is not an it. They use personal pronouns, usually in English the word she, which of course is an ancient designation in many cultures that planet Earth being 71% water, ocean, is our mother, our source, Papatuanuku. Much damage has been done in the ecological history of our planet by designating the ocean, like the land and forests, as objects to be used or misused, rather than subjects with rights to whom we have responsibilities. Secondly, in these videos they use the whakatoki, the proverb, ko ao te moana, ko te moana, ko ao, meaning, I am the ocean is me. This whakatoki expresses a deep connection and interdependence between humans and the natural world, specifically the ocean. It speaks to a sense of oneness and belonging, recognizing that we humans are intrinsically linked to the environment we inhabit. In the early Jesus movements, in order to both critique the norm of the hierarchical patriarchal family and create a new understanding of the bonds between each follower of Jesus, they called one another siblings, brothers and sisters. There was a language change. I think part of the spiritual challenge today is to both critique the dominant mythology and the earth is an object for our use, and then to create a new understandings of the bonds between all life on this planet. We need to change our language and see ourselves in the ocean as neighbours, as siblings, as interdependent. To love your neighbour as yourself takes on a whole different meaning when our neighbour is the ocean. Back in the pre-computer days, those of us who study the Bible made use of concordances. They were weighty tomes, good for pressing things. And they referenced almost each and every word in the Bible. So if you looked up the word ocean or sea, there would be a listing giving you book, chapter, verse. Nowadays, computers make it much simpler. If you undertake such a task, you'll discover there are references to Noah's Ark, to Jonah and his large fish, doesn't say whale, to Jesus on Lake Galilee, Lake Kinneret. Some are like Psalm 107, verses 23 and 24, which reads, "Some went out on the sea in ships. They were merchants on the mighty waters. They saw the works of the life, God's wonderful deeds in the deep." I use the word life instead of Lord. The ocean was a symbol of God's mighty power and the fear and respect that one should therefore hold God in. The destructive power of the ocean was very real to fishing communities, then and still now. The ocean, like other sources, was also a symbol of cleansing. To still the storm, to still the seas, was a sign of a great prophet. Also find references to the ocean as a food source in the Bible. Hymns reflect similar theology, like William Whiting's hymn, called the Naval Hymn. "Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm hath bound the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep its own appointed limits keep. O hear us when we cry to thee, for those in peril on the sea." The entire hymn shows a healthy respect for the dangers of the sea and its challenges, but not much joy. Poems tend to use the sea as a metaphor. Maybe one of the more well-known, particularly around St. Luke's, is the Victorian Matthew Arnold's Dover Beach, where he laments the tide going out on English Christianity. Arnold suggests that without the anchor of faith, humanity is left in a state of confusion and suffering. This is the poem, and why it's well known at St. Luke's, that Don Cupid used as a title for his book and influential TV series, The Sea of Faith. I've always thought the tide was a strange metaphor to use in this poem, and the poem itself rather gloomy. There are some modern poems that invite us to consider the care and healing the ocean now needs. The ocean breathes a rhythm vast and deep, where ancient currents softly ebb and sweet, but plastic threads, a choking ghostly shroud, now tangle in its currents, whispered loud. The coral reefs, once vibrant, gem-bright hues, now pale and stark, devoured by warmer dews. The creatures swim their fragile homes to clay, as human hands despoil and steal away. The storm surge rises wild and uncontrolled, a consequence of actions bravely told. Yet still the ocean calls a siren's plea for stewardship, for healing, wild and free. The second reading in our service today is the poem Trough by Judy Sorum Brown. It too uses the sea as a metaphor, but much more positively than Matthew Arnold. It talks about the troughs in life, about not being overwhelmed when we're down in one of these troughs, the disciplines of stillness and waiting for the trough to rise, and finding again in time the way forward. Maybe this metaphor could be turned to the enormous task of restoring the health of the oceans and not being overwhelmed by the troughs of inaction and indifference. Yet in all my searching in scripture and song and poems, even modern poems, I did not find the spirituality that explicitly invites us to imagine the sea as our neighbour, to be loved and cared for. Indeed, to see the ocean as part of us, as connected to us like a sibling, like a part of our own body even. The closest I found was another whakatūki proverb. Toi tū te marae a tāne, toi tū te marae a tangaroa, toi tū te iwi. If the realms, the household of Tāne, which is the forest, and the realms, the household of Tangaroa, which is the ocean, are sustained and honoured, then so too will be the people. In other words, our human well-being is intrinsically connected to the well-being of the land and the sea. A number of you will have seen Sir David Attenborough's recent movie, Ocean. It highlights the vital importance of the ocean to our planet's health and the urgent need for its protection. The ocean is not just a vast body of water, but a vital life support system for the whole planet, regulating climate, providing oxygen, and supporting countless species. Yet this support system is suffering under the devastating impact of human activities like overfishing, bottom trawling, and pollution. The film's core message is that the ocean is resilient and can recover if given the chance. One of the hopeful messages in the movie is whales. It's estimated that 2.9 million whales were killed by the whaling industry in the 20th century alone. Scientists have said it was the largest cull of any animal in history when measured in terms of biomass. It pushed almost all whale species to the edge of extinction. Just 1% of blue whales were left. Recall Sir David, I remember thinking that was it. There was no coming back. We have lost the great whales. But in 1986, lawmakers bowed to public pressure and banned commercial whaling worldwide. The whale population has rapidly recovered since. To restore our oceans will require an enormous effort. It will require us to join with all manner of people, to plan, dream, work together, take action together. It will require us to undergo a spiritual change, to view the sea as our kin, our neighbour, like in today's parable, in need of mercy, help, and financial assistance. It will require us to view the sea as part of our physical body, our very life, and as such vital to our survival as a human species. Blessings to you all.